In the 1980s, horror didn't just rely on masked killers and haunted houses. It unleashed monsters, mutations, and high-concept nightmares that felt built for the video store shelf. This was the decade where creatures ruled, practical effects took center stage, and some of the wildest ideas ever filmed made their way onto late-night cable and worn-out VHS tapes. In this episode, we're diving into a lineup of monster-driven 80s horror, from underground cult oddities to big studio creature showcases. Giant threats, strange experiments, unstoppable forces, and unforgettable practical effects, creations that still hold up today. Some were hits, some were misunderstood, and some became legends purely through word of mouth and repeat rentals. If you like your horror bold, imaginative, and packed with physical effects work, this is the era that delivered. Let's rewind to the 80s and take a look at some monster-driven horror you should see. Alligator, 1980. A baby alligator flushed down a Chicago toilet survives in the city's sewer system, feeding on medical waste and hormone-tainted animal carcasses dumped below ground. Over time, the chemicals cause it to grow to enormous size. Years later, the creature begins surfacing to hunt humans. A disgraced detective and a reptile expert try to warn authorities. But city officials are more concerned with public image than an escalating body count. Directed by Louis Teague from a script by John Sayles, Alligator delivers more intelligence than its premise suggests. Robert Forster brings weary charisma to the detective, playing a man who's been ignored before and expects to be ignored again. Robin Riker supports as the scientist who understands the biological cause of the threat. Sayles' script balances creature movie thrills with pointed satire aimed at corporate negligence and political denial. The effects blend real alligator footage, shot in scaled sets with mechanical creatures for close-up attacks. The illusion of size is convincing, giving the monster real physical presence. The kills are inventive and brutal: a swimming pool attack, a wedding massacre, and sewer ambushes, staged with practical stunts and gore. Nothing feels weightless or artificial. Alligator is smart B-movie filmmaking done right. It treats its monsters seriously while allowing room for humor and social commentary. With sharp writing, solid performances, and effective practical effects, it rises well above typical creature features, a genuinely underrated entry in the genre. Creepshow 2, 1987. Three more tales of ironic horror unfold in this sequel inspired by EC Comics. A wooden statue avenges its murdered shopkeepers. Teenagers at a remote lake are hunted by a living oil slick. A hit-and-run victim returns again and again to confront the woman who killed him. Between stories, animated comic book segments follow a bullied paperboy dealing with neighborhood tormentors. Michael Gornick directs from a script by George Romero, adapting stories by Stephen King. With only 3 segments, the film gives each story more room to breathe. The cast includes Lois Chiles, George Kennedy, Dorothy Lamour, and a group of young actors who sell the escalating terror. The effects are strongest in The Raft, where the creature's simplicity makes it more disturbing. Victims are pulled under and digested on-screen with prolonged cruelty. The Hitchhiker relies on repetition and decay, showing its antagonists deteriorate. The animated segments maintain the comic book style through hand-drawn visuals. Creepshow 2 doesn't match the original's range, but it captures the same mean spirit. Characters get exactly what they deserve, often in excessive fashion. The Raft alone earned the film its cult reputation, making this a sequel that works best when it embraces its nastiest instincts. Ghoulies, 1985. A story about a young man inheriting his father's mansion and accidentally summoning demonic creatures through black magic rituals. The titular Ghoulies, rubbery puppet monsters, cause chaos while darker forces manipulate events toward satanic ends. Director Luca Bercovici creates a tonal mess that somehow works through sheer commitment to practical creature effects and gothic atmosphere. The mansion setting provides appropriately shadowy corridors for supernatural mayhem, while the occult elements, pentagrams, ritual circles, demon summoning, are played surprisingly straight. Peter Liapis portrays the protagonist's gradual corruption with appropriate intensity, while Michael DeBars chews scenery as the warlock manipulating events. The Ghoulies themselves are gloriously ridiculous creations, little rubber monsters with expressive faces that combine cute and grotesque. John Carl Buechler's Creature Shop delivered multiple designs ranging from imp-like to reptilian, each brought to life through puppetry and animatronics. They don't do much beyond causing minor havoc and looking weird, but their practical presence gives the film tactile charm. Charles Band's Empire Pictures released Ghoulies during the mid-'80s creature feature boom, and while it lacks Gremlins' polish and wit, it found its audience through home video. The film spawned multiple sequels of decreasing budget and increasing absurdity. It represents band-era exploitation perfectly. High concept, low budget, practical creatures, and enough weirdness to stand out on rental shelves. Dolls, 1987. During a violent storm, a group of travelers take shelter in a remote mansion owned by an elderly couple who make handmade dolls. At first, the hosts seem gentle and accommodating, but it quickly becomes clear their creations aren't just decorations. The dolls are alive, and they exist to punish cruelty, greed, and selfish behavior. As the night unfolds, the house turns into a closed-off judgment zone, where bad behavior carries very specific consequences. Rather than leaning into realism, the film plays like a dark fairy tale. Stephen Lee appears as one of the stranded adults, while Carrie Lorraine plays Judy, a young girl whose kindness and imagination set her apart from the others. Guy Rolfe and Hilary Mason are quietly unsettling as the doll makers, projecting warmth on the surface while suggesting something far stranger underneath. The human characters are clearly divided into the deserving and the doomed. The effects are the film's main appeal. Stop-motion animation gives the dolls jerky, unnatural movement that feels intentionally wrong. Puppetry and practical effects handle the violence, which is often inventive and grimly humorous. Toy soldiers, miniature weapons, and porcelain figures become instruments of punishment rather than playthings. The mansion itself is staged like a distorted dollhouse, full of shadows and exaggerated scale. Dolls operates on storybook logic. Good characters are protected, bad ones aren't. It's playful, mean in measured doses, and aware of its own silliness. Not a straight horror film, and not a comedy either. Just a strange, controlled little nightmare built out of childhood fears and practical effects. Basket Case, 1982. Frank Henenlotter's Basket Case is New York City grindhouse horror at its grimiest and most heartfelt. Dwayne Bradley arrives in Manhattan carrying a wicker basket containing his surgically separated Siamese twin Belial, a grotesque malformed creature with psychic connection to his brother, and a serious grudge against the doctors who tore them apart. What follows is revenge, horror filtered through body horror, dark comedy, and genuine tragedy. Shot on a minuscule budget in the seediest corners of Times Square, the film captures early 80s New York in all its dangerous, decaying glory. Henenlotter uses real locations, flop houses, peep shows, grimy streets, giving everything authentic texture that no studio set could replicate. The city becomes as much a character as the brothers, a place where someone carrying a monster in a basket barely registers as unusual. Kevin Van Hentenryck plays Dwayne with surprising vulnerability, portraying a man caught between loyalty to his brother and desire for normal life. Belial, realized through stop-motion and puppet effects, is simultaneously pathetic and terrifying, a victim of medical cruelty whose justified rage has curdled into something monstrous. The film treats their relationship with unexpected empathy, even as it delivers shocking violence. The gore effects are crude but effective. The acting ranges from committed to community theater, and the tone careens between horror and pitch-black comedy. Yet Basket Case works precisely because of these rough edges. It feels dangerous, unpredictable, and genuinely weird in ways that polished productions can't achieve. Henenlotter created an exploitation classic about monstrosity, brotherhood, and revenge that still feels transgressive. Maximum Overdrive, 1986. When Earth passes through the tail of a comet, machines across the world turn hostile, Trucks surround a highway rest stop, trapping employees and travelers inside. Soda machines fire cans. Bank machines mock customers. A massive semi-truck with a green goblin face leads the siege, waiting for the humans to make a mistake or starve. Stephen King directs his only feature film with unchecked enthusiasm and zero restraint. Emilio Estevez leads the survivors with blue-collar grit, supported by Pat Hingle and Laura Harrington. The performances are functional, but the real star is the chaos. King's lack of experience shows in pacing and tone, but his love of mayhem is unmistakable. The effects are gloriously excessive. A steamroller crushes a man in brutal detail. Vehicles explode, trucks charge barricades, and machines become characters through staging and lighting. The AC/DC soundtrack blares non-stop, replacing subtlety with raw aggression. Maximum Overdrive is dumb, loud, and unapologetic. King himself admitted it's a mess, but its commitment to mechanical carnage makes it impossible to forget. A fascinating failure that's far more entertaining than it has any right to be. Q the Winged Serpent, 1982. Larry Cohen's Q combines monster movie spectacle with New York crime thriller, creating something uniquely strange. A flying serpent, an Aztec god, nests atop the Chrysler Building and begins snatching victims from Manhattan rooftops. A small-time crook accidentally discovers the creature's lair and tries leveraging the information for profit, while police detective David Carradine investigates both the monster and a series of ritual slayings connected to ancient Aztec practices. Michael Moriarty delivers a fascinatingly erratic performance as the crook, playing desperate comedy and genuine menace with equal conviction. His character negotiates with city officials over monster information like a hostage situation, creating absurd tension. Carradine brings grounded detective work to increasingly bizarre circumstances, treating Aztec mythology as seriously as any other case. The creature effects by David Allen and Randall William Cook are impressively achieved through stop-motion animation and practical work. Q looks genuinely serpentine and massive, with attack sequences that blend the creature seamlessly into New York locations. Cohen shoots the city with documentary eye, making the fantastic feel grounded in recognizable reality. Q represents Cohen's ability to smuggle weird ideas into genre frameworks, creating B-movies with genuine personality and unexpected depth. It's monster movie, crime thriller, and character study simultaneously, proof that low-budget filmmaking could be ambitious, strange, and thoroughly entertaining without compromising any element. Pumpkinhead, 1988. When a careless accident kills his young son, rural shopkeeper Ed Harley is consumed by grief and rage. Desperate for justice, he turns to a local witch and resurrects Pumpkinhead, a demon born from mountain folklore and buried long ago. As the creature hunts the responsible teenagers, Ed realizes he's bound to it, forced to witness each act of vengeance through a psychic link that makes escape impossible. Stan Winston's directorial debut treats the story as a folk horror tragedy rather than a simple monster movie. Lance Henriksen delivers a deeply human performance, charting Ed's collapse from grieving father to a man hollowed out by guilt and consequence. Even the teenage victims are given dimension, their fear and remorse, reinforcing that this is not a story about righteous revenge, but irreversible damage. Pumpkinhead himself remains one of horror's most striking creatures, a towering, skeletal demon that feels grown from the soil rather than summoned by spell. Winston's practical effects give the monster weight and physical presence, while the Appalachian setting grounds the film in a believable rural Gothic world of isolation and superstition. The result is a bleak, melancholic tale where vengeance offers no relief, only a slower, more personal kind of damnation. The Blob, 1988. A meteor crashes near a small California town, releasing a gelatinous organism that feeds on anything it touches. At first it seems manageable, even containable. But with every victim it absorbs, the creature grows larger and more aggressive. As people begin disappearing, a local teenager and a classmate uncover signs that the government knows more than it's admitting, and is prepared to sacrifice the town to keep the problem quiet. The film treats its premise seriously without overcomplicating it. Kevin Dillon plays the outsider lead with a laid-back confidence that fits the setting, while Shawnee Smith's character is written as capable and observant rather than reactive. Their dynamic keeps the story moving as the situation escalates. The supporting cast fills out the town with recognizable personalities, which makes the losses feel abrupt rather than disposable. The effects are the film's defining feature. The Blob doesn't simply attack, it engulfs, dissolves, and absorbs its victims in prolonged, uncomfortable sequences. Bodies are pulled into drains, trapped in confined spaces, or visibly broken down on screen. The creature is realized through practical materials, puppetry, and mechanical rigs, giving it real weight and physical presence. Set pieces are staged to maximize panic, especially in enclosed environments. The Blob succeeds by committing fully to its concept. It balances creature-feature spectacle with a thread of mistrust toward authority, without slowing the momentum. It's straightforward, mean-spirited in places, and technically impressive. A remake that understands what made the idea work in the first place, and updates it with sharper effects and a colder outlook. The Deadly Spawn, 1983. A meteor crash lands in rural New Jersey, carrying with it a nest of monstrous worm-like creatures with endless rows of teeth. At first they hide in a basement, but soon the alien spawn multiply and burst into the house, attacking anyone unlucky enough to cross their path. With adults quickly picked off, it falls to a group of kids and teenagers to fight for survival against the creatures before the infestation spreads beyond control. Directed by Douglas McKeown, The Deadly Spawn is a landmark in independent horror, made for almost no money, but packed with imagination. The cast includes Charles George Hildebrandt and Tom DeFranco, though the real stars are the creatures themselves, realized through ambitious practical effects that deliver far more than the film's tiny budget would suggest. The monsters are unforgettable, fleshy tooth-lined maws snapping in the dark, devouring victims in showers of gore. One sequence in particular, involving a kitchen attack, became legendary among VHS fans for its shocking brutality. The combination of inventive puppetry, handmade gore, and non-stop energy makes the film feel bigger than it is. What makes The Deadly Spawn endure is its scrappy determination. It takes the alien invasion concept and distills it into a suburban siege, where every creak in the basement could mean another bloody ambush. Its cover art became iconic on video store shelves, luring renters who were rewarded with a cult classic that delivered on its grisly promise. Today, it's celebrated as one of the great low-budget creature features of the 1980s, a film that proves creativity, passion, and gallons of fake blood can go toe-to-toe with Hollywood's biggest monsters. If you love discovering forgotten horror and cult cinema, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the films time forgot. Thanks for watching, and remember, always be kind and rewind, because every movie is someone's favorite.